Hello guys, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be attempting to get this algorithm to actually make trades for us now. Because we've added the ability to calculate and store previous moving day averages, we should be able to now put in the logic to actually open trades. My first step that I'm going to do here is I'm going to run the code, and because we've got outdated information here from the 13th, hopefully it should store the data for both. That's what I'm wanting to check, because I checked the server and it seemed to have not worked, which is unfortunate. Okay, so it should only wait for 10 seconds. Oh look, there we go, it's updating data. And okay, here we go. We noticed something interesting. So the 10-day moving average for AMD before we changed was 133, which we could see here. Perfect. So it actually has kept both moving averages here. We have 133, 132, and the 50-day moving average has moved slightly up today. The dates are messed up, I guess, because I ran this program on the same day, but normally that wouldn't happen. So what we're trying to think of strategy-wise, I'll whip up a quick paint.net thing here. Sorry to blind you guys, but the main thing is, right, this line is going to be the 10-day moving average, and this will be the 50-day moving average, which is normally lagging behind, but behind here. The way the trades will work is if the 10-day average crosses over the 50-day average, then we buy or sell. So I'll quickly redo this. If we have the 50-day moving average going like this, up, however, the 10-day moving average does this, we know that we've got a downward movement, so we need to sell. And vice versa, if the average is going down and we're going down as well, and then we go up this way, that crossover point means we want to buy. So what we're going to have to work on is checking for those crossover points. And if a crossover point has occurred, then you make a purchase. You open up a trade. So waiting for 24 hours is still going to be a good thing. The moving averages aren't going to update. I'm going to work on attempting to implement that logic now to buy and sell. I'm not 100% sure on what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to think about what I'm going to do, and then hopefully we can figure it out. So something quite interesting I've done here is before we add more data to the kind of the main data thing that we're storing everything in, which will have all of our moving averages over time, I'm doing a check to make sure the date in the most recent, so the last, if it equals the date today, well, then you're probably trying to add more data. Like you shouldn't be doing that, because we've already added today's date in there, and we know it doesn't change for 24 hours. So if the date is in there, you will never have a situation with our current scope of this being needed. So this just breaks out the loop and doesn't add any, it prevents duplicates from occurring, basically. So what I want to do now is kind of the same thing here. Is I don't want to have to re-download, like get all the new stock information if there is no new stock information. So I'm gonna, before we update the stocks, I will check to see if we've not already done today, and if we've not, then we can re-download the new data. What I've managed to do is, instead of just writing today's current date, which is the 15th, into the vector, I will actually take whatever the last date in the text file is, because it means for comparisons, it's just basically a better thing to do. So here we're putting in our vector, because I've not allowed it to download new data, the only data it's got is the data from the 13th. So that's 2 days ago. I've cut the program off short here. The program has recognized that we do not have the most up-to-date data. It's false. So that what that will allow me to do is, if this is false, we don't have the most up-to-date data, then we can attempt to download new data. So I'm going to implement that now. There we go. So what that should hopefully do is If we don't have the most up-to-date data, it will now attempt to download the newest data possible, so let's give it a go. Okay, well, that didn't go as expected. So I just wasted about 4 or 5 API calls there. Of course, it's not going to be the most up-to-date because it will only get the historical data from the last closing day, which will be the 14th. And because it's the 14th, it is not the 15th as today, then it will think that it doesn't have the most up-to-date data when it does. So I need to maybe modify it, but you can't just say, is it yesterday going to be right, because sometimes over the weekend the market closed for 2 days. You can see here that now these stupid squiggly lines appear because I took away the break, which I hate having to add back every time. Now you can see it's basically, this is looping every 10 seconds, but there's nothing being downloaded, nothing's being added. I'm going to stop now, but you can see here as I scroll up, it ran a few times, but because no new data was basically found, it's just not gonna download any new data, and then it's not gonna push anything to the vectors. Now this is using a very kind of rough way to figure out if it's already done it, but I think that for right now it's what we need, as I've still not managed to get to implementing buying and selling. So that is what I will be trying to do now. So that seems to be wrapping up today, as it's just time's ticking on. So basically what we've managed to do today is get a bunch of these checks in, which is quite helpful. So now we shouldn't abuse the API limit and get us timed out. I've now laid the groundworks here, kind of this area here, for potentially where next time I'm going to have to kind of think about and work on how am I going to figure out when the line crosses that graph. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.